Back in our Fox News contributor, Paul Mauro, he was inside that briefing room. Paul, as you can imagine, people are glued to watching this. They're hungry for any updates at all. As I sort of go through, I wonder about the Ring doorbell, too, the way you would look at that. If they're confirming that the Ring doorbell disconnected at 1:47 a.m., you kind of wonder what was the last ping to her. For anybody who has a Ring, you know that it sends you images or updates or alerts to your phone, your computer, whatever it might be. Obviously, part of this investigation, they probably looked at what was the last transmission before that was disconnected.
Yeah, according to the sheriff, what they did was they took the physical camera and sent it to the company that makes it and that administers it. It's Google, from what I understand. It's actually not Ring, it's Nest. It's the same kind of thing, so that they could try to examine it to see if they could digitally extract something that could shed a little bit more light on what occurred, and the answer is a fast no. It looks like, as the sheriff said, the subscription had expired, the thing was overwriting, and they just didn't get anything off the camera. And, you know, I was hoping for the same thing, because he said that thing at the beginning of the press conference about we're in the await the analysis mode. And that's why, just to clarify, I went with the DNA question. Because if you remember the Koberger case, where it looked like, in a similar way, they've hit a bit of a wall, they don't have somebody that they're looking at early on. They did the genetic genealogy when they got the DNA off of the night hasp. In this case, they said earlier that they put out the DNA on a rush job from the most likely place, which was the front of the house, and they expected to get an answer back overnight. That time is come and gone. So when he said we were awaiting analysis, what I was hoping we were going to get from the local FBI agent, and that's why I asked him, was, yes, we got alien DNA that shouldn't be there, but the person's unidentified. If the person was identified, if a person hit in the federal database, the CODIS database, we'd already know who it is. They apparently don't have that, nor did they submit it yet. So what does that tell me? I think at this point, the DNA, you have to say, is a blind alley. And to support that, little bit of a dampening metric, I would argue, is that the sheriff said kind of casually, but I felt it was important, that they were going to be putting up billboards around the area and in Arizona to try to sensitize the population here to Nancy, what she looks like and what's going on. You don't do that if you're making real good progress or you're awaiting analysis from something that you feel is going to blow the case open. So I don't feel right now like they're in a position to say, hey, we're making great progress. But let me be clear. You got a lot of investigative muscle here. They're going to get who did this. I feel certain. Just may take some time.
Yeah, so the question was asked at the briefing, Paul, whether or not Nancy Guthrie might be in a foreign country. I guess the reference would be to Mexico. Yeah. Tucson's only about an hour from the Mexican border. We know that the cartels are very heavily involved in kidnapping for ransom. Their financial pipeline has dried up to a large degree because of the lack of illegal immigration across the southern border. I mean, pure speculation, but what are the chances this could be a cartel operation?
I would put that in the sort of outer ring of possibilities. Of course, you can't discount it. We're very close. And you know what happens in situations like this? This would be a desperation move, certainly, if you're a cartel member. So why would a cartel member do something that could potentially draw light to the cartel? Because this is not how they normally make money, certainly from America. You'd be bringing a lot of heat. It would have to be somebody who went rogue, maybe somebody who owes a middleman a lot of money, something where they're just really desperate. It would be a really foolish move if you're actually card-carrying member of the Sinaloa cartel or something like that, because all you're going to do is bring down the weight of the federal government here. But that said, the fact that they contacted TMZ and not the actual network that Savannah works for argues some lack of familiarity with the landscape here. And the other thing I'm wondering, too, is this thing about the Apple Watch. We know that they talked about the fact that she had an Apple Watch and that there was a floodlight. So when did that come in? And they were a little unclear about that. They said they were running it down. Here's what I would be looking at. is there anything in previous social media, and it doesn't have to be from the victim, it could be from Savannah, innocently putting out, I spent a day with my mother, etc., where it's clear the mother is wearing the watch.
There is. I can confirm that. We have a picture we've been showing often with Nancy Guthrie wearing the Apple, it's a white Apple watch.
Mm-hmm.
So that pours a little bit more water on the idea that this ransom note, and it could definitely be genuine, but the fact that there's no protocols for an exchange, the fact that some of this stuff is already out there, starting to suggest to me that this is somebody sitting in a place we can't reach, who knows about Bitcoin, maybe knows something about ransomware, maybe someplace in Russia or something like that, and just piggybacked on this whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, we posited the other day that is this a kidnapping for ransom? There wasn't anything to indicate that it was because there had been no ransom note. And today, toward the end of the press briefing, Sheriff Chris Nano said there is a possibility that this is not a kidnapping. And if that's the case, it takes us back to square one of what exactly is this?
In that case, then, your most likely scenario is a burglary gone bad. I mean, taking off the table something crazy, a revenge thing, or some other motive that's a lot more malevolent. You would have to say, then, that it was somebody who maybe made the connection, thought that this person was very wealthy because of the connection, and thought, you know what, I'm going to go in the house. She's probably got jewels that her daughter bought for her. And, you know, look, I got to give a reference that's kind of blunt, but in Cold Blood, the famous Truman Capote, that came out of a jailhouse rumor that a family had a lot of money. And so in jail, the two perpetrators schemed the whole thing and committed the crime. And there's not a lot of history of successful kidnappings or things like that by any means. So you got to look at things like that. Who has gotten out of jail recently? You got to work your informants.
Yeah.
Is this from the criminal class that may have heard something like this? That's why the reward is very important. I have to say, I still think the reward needs to be higher. You have to incentivize somebody who's maybe next to the perpetrators here to say, I'm going to give this whole thing up. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm not going to be quiet for their sake because I'm looking at a big score. I'm still surprised that you're not getting non-government rewards being piled into this thing. There has to be a reason for that. I just don't see it yet.
Interesting. I want to just play this out because this was another new piece of information in the news conference, Paul, and it was that Nancy, the mother, traveled to dinner that night via an Uber. The Uber driver, the sheriff said, has been questioned. Here was that moment at the news conference. Listen.
We did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner. And we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information.
So I assume you can probably assume that other than the family member that dropped her off after dinner, according to their timeline, the last person outside of the family that would have been at the home would have been that Uber driver. What did you think of that piece of data?
Interesting, because a lot of us have been speculating that she probably didn't drive herself a lot if she did indeed have a car, and in fact probably is not carrying groceries, going to the doctor, things like that, because she was elderly and had a hard time getting around. So what that suggests to me is obviously she has an Uber account. So now you can go back into the Uber account and you can get that just off her credit card and you can get it from Uber. Who have her drivers been? What other drivers has she used? These are people who have seen the house. As the old saying goes, what do you covet? You covet what you see. And if there have been people that have been in and around the house that have come to the conclusion that there's wealth for me here, by whatever means, that's what you have to start to look at. It sounds like they washed out the Uber driver. Let's remember, we had an Uber driver in the Koberger case that provided good information, but had nothing to do with the crime. So let's not jump to any conclusions, but you're definitely going to be looking at people who were in and around the house, whether a health aide, a driver, somebody who's been in the house to drop off groceries or do repairs. Those are the people you're going to scrape at very hard, and it's probably, or maybe it's not them, it's somebody related who heard about it.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see what else investigators come up with. For the moment, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.